to Meeting of the Minds. Today I'm here with the great Bob DeMarco. Bob, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Happy to talk today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's take it from the top. Talk about your background, what led you into sports, coaching, all of that.
Well, obviously as a kid, sports dominated my life. Uh, I was fortunate to get a football scholarship to Hofstra University, continue my sports career. And while I was there, I was introduced to the game of lacrosse. At that time, so the athletes played in dual sports, not like it is today. Our football coach happened to be our lacrosse coach, pretty famous guy by the name of Howdy Myers, and talked me into it. And all of a sudden, I became a two-sport athlete at Hofstra. Uh, when I was leaving Hofstra, I envisioned myself in a career on Wall Street. I was a business major, and then, I just felt I had a gift in relating with kids and in coaching. I didn't want to leave it, and I started a career in education, kind of the hard way. I started in a parochial school, eventually got my certifications, and then moved on. So that was the gist of my, starting my career in education.
Excellent. Excellent. And then as you moved into coaching, getting more and more involved, you coached multiple sports too.
That's correct. That's correct. My first couple of years, I went back to my old high school, Cardinal Spellman in the Bronx, and became a assistant football coach there. And at the same time, I became a head coach at a small university in New York City, York College in the CUNY system. So I was the head lacrosse coach for 3 years. Some of the players on my team were older than me, but I did get the bug. And then I moved on for 1 year up to Sleepy Hollow High School in Terrytown. And there, I thought I was going to spend my lifetime there. I had everything going for me. I was the head lacrosse coach, assistant football coach, the head women's basketball coach. So it was pretty hectic schedule. And then unfortunately, they cut the position that I was teaching, and then I was without a job. And at that time, I went back to my old high school, became the head coach at Cardinal Spellman. Took off from lacrosse for a couple of years, and then a crazy thing happened. I was sitting in my house in Yonkers, New York, and I saw an ad in the New York Times looking for a football coach in Old Bridge, New Jersey, which I had no idea what it was all about. And that turned my life around. I became the head football coach at Madison Central in Old Bridge. Eventually, they were merged with our sister school, Cedar Ridge. And for 33 years, I was the head coach there. And a couple of years after I started, I got a call from Tom Hayes, who was the head lacrosse coach at Rutgers, who I knew, from past experiences. He asked me to come over, and for 20 years, I was the defensive coordinator at Rutgers in the spring. So I was coaching football in the fall and lacrosse in the spring, and all of a sudden it took off. And it went that way, for as they say, for 33 years. Eventually, Tom Hayes retired. So I wound up out of lacrosse. And then what happened, I retired in 2010, was pretty much out of things. And Tom asked me to get involved in international lacrosse. But, he's probably the godfather of international lacrosse. And I was heavily involved. I'm heavily involved in that now. I'm on the board of of the World Lacrosse, and it's become a passion for me. And that's it in a 2-minute nutshell of where I am and what I've done.
Excellent. And you're a prime example of, with those multiple sports, both as a competitor and as a coach, that the success principles are the same. So that's what I'm curious to hear about your success philosophies and principles as an athlete, as a coach, and now as an administrator, and how that carries over.
Yeah, very much so. I think the big thing, and people always used to ask me, you're coaching high school football, and then you're coaching college athletes, in a top level Division I program. And they always ask me, I said, did you find a difference? And I always said, absolutely none. Coaching is coaching. I think the big thing is, if athletes see you have a passion for something and you're able to communicate with them, it leads to a really successful experience for both the coach and the athlete. And on the administrative end of it, I think the big thing for me is my passion to grow the game. And that was instilled in me by Tom Hayes. I get great satisfaction of seeing at this point a new country coming on board. We may be able to help one of our existing countries. I mean, I watched this thing go in 1974 when we had 4 men's countries and 6 women playing. And in 2000, we just took in our 68th country with our 69th coming on board. So to watch that grow over the years, it's really rewarding.
That's awesome. I mean, the sport of lacrosse just seems like it's exploding, like not only at the local level, but also, like you said, at the international level. Why do you think it's kicked up so much? I mean, obviously hard work from good people like yourself and the organization you're involved with. What are what's the appeal with lacrosse that people are really jumping to?
Well, the big difference I find with football and lacrosse, people always ask me that. Lacrosse is fun to practice. The skills when you learn how to catch and throw and pick up a ball, and then you're right into competition. So every day you go out, whether you're practicing or playing, it's fun. And that is not to say football's not. I mean, obviously, my passion was football, and football is a little different in that it was a whole experience with football. When the band on Friday night, the competition, the excitement. Lacrosse has that in the competition end of it, but it doesn't have quite the pageantry. But getting back to both, I think if you have passion in anything you do, it comes out, and I think that's the key.
A big time, for sure. People could tell if you're faking it or if you're really into it. And if you're into it, like you said, you'll get that buy-in. If you know what you're talking about, you are knowledgeable, you know the X's and O's, the mechanics, as well as have the passion for it. They want to be around you, and they see that you're in it for their personal growth and also for the growth of the sport. Those are 2 different things. You could have a coach who's just in it for the team or a coach who's just in it for the sport. You need to have both. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So when I came down to New Jersey as the head football coach, I came at a very difficult time. They were looking for people inside inside the school for the job. I was an outsider, and people asked me that question. What will you bring, and why are you here? And I said, I want to build a program. I want to build a culture. I'm not here for a year or 2 years about winning a championship. I want sustainability. I want a top-notch program. And we had some great people in my school. We had a gentleman by the name of Greg DeMarco, ironically, was our wrestling coach, and he taught me so much about building a program. So if you ask any of our players through the years, they will say program. And I think that's the key. You can't worry about an individual season, an individual game. It's about the big picture of the program.
Excellent. What are some of if you could give like a quick tips, a top 5, or just any kind of bullet points of how to build a program, what would be some good things that maybe coaches should know, but they don't necessarily do? Maybe some common mistakes they make and what you would do to correct that?
Well, I think first of all, and I did mention this in passion and caring, I think you need to really care about your athletes on a personal level. It's interesting. I'm on the back end of this now, and fortunately, I have a tremendous memory of every little thing that's gone on, and my former players are amazed. But when I correspond with them on Facebook or talk to them, I think they really still see that I care, because I don't talk about a particular game. How's your mother? How's your father? That kind of thing. So I think the biggest thing on any coach is caring about your athletes and caring about more than wins and losses. All right. I think, the other part of that is that you're consistent. You're consistent in how you treat kids. I mean, I know they always say, you can't treat all kids the same. I think you can treat them out, out in the front that way. And then you can talk to each kid individually. And I think a lot of coaches try to become a coach that they're not. You can't fake that type. So if you care and then you treat kids on an individual basis, but you're consistent, I think you need to be consistent with your rules. I remember a situation where, we were in a state championship game, and, one of our players, thought they were a little bigger than the system. And I said, come on over. I was a little more vocal at that point, but I said, come on over, sit down for a while and watch this. Now, this is a state championship game. You cannot be afraid to lose. And I think a lot of coaches are concerned so much about the win that sometimes you have to let it go. And what will be, will be. Again, getting back to coaching a program, you're not concerned. Obviously, you are concerned about winning a championship and so forth. That's always been, but you're not concerned about sacrificing that for what's the best. So
right, no problem. That makes a lot of sense. And people and the best coaches, they do get that. But yes, of course, we're about the wins, and I also like what you said before too about the fact that you do need to have a system. Like, it's a little bit of both. It is having a system and it is individualized. It seems like any successful program, whether it's business, sports, just any organization, there's a system and then there's some freedom within the system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And and it's the same thing. We were, philosophically, we were an option football team. That was our system. Now people say, well, what happens if you had a great pass? Well, pretty much they fit into the system. We'd have special, special things to do with special talent. But I think it also goes into your philosophy on how you coach and what you believe in. So I think the system goes not only with your total program, but what you do. I remember, watching our wrestling teams, and we had at that time Madison and Cedar Ridge. And if you looked at our Cedar Ridge program, Jerry Bandola, they were known for, coming out with the hoods on, and they were different. They were known as, the king of the cradle. And then you looked at Greg DeMarco and then Kenny Scott, and they were known as the half people, half Nelson. They had a system, and their kids bought into it. So I think the system goes all the way around, not only philosophy of your program, but what you do and what you try to accomplish.
Absolutely. Talk about some of the biggest mental hurdles you see athletes that you've seen over the years across sports that they struggle to overcome, like where they get in their own head or low confidence or focusing too much on the wrong things. I know we talked more macro. Now we're zooming in more to the micro of those athletes. Anything that you've seen over the years?
Well, obviously the biggest difference is social media. And with the athletes, with the coaches, so much of that's going on. There's pressure on the kids from the parental end, scholarships, and so I've seen a major difference, and I find that a lot of kids today don't realize the experience is more important than playing the game and being involved in a program and being a good teammate. But there's a lot of pressure on them today, from social media.
Right, absolutely. And just dealing with that, we constantly tell our athletes, don't get caught up into what we call the fan mentality. We're getting sucked into like the storyline, the records, the rankings, the seedings, the predictions. It was tough enough for us back when we were competing, where it's looking at the box scores in the newspaper, staying away from that. Well, now social media, it's right in your face. It's everywhere. All of your friends are talking about it. That's a big challenge.
Yeah, and also, watching the games on TV, you're watching, some of the stuff going on, the me generation, watching somebody recover a fumble, and the entire team goes down the field and starts taking pictures. I'm not old fashioned, but it's a fumble. You didn't win the championship here, and I know it's encouraged a little bit, and especially in the NFL, and I know there's marketing things and selling the game, but it's not what high school football is all about or high school athletics all about. It's about that experience of competing and being a good teammate.
Absolutely. As you say that, I can't help but think about Jerry Maguire and the guy dancing in the end zone, Cuba Gooding Jr. And
Yeah.
actually,
Show me
Bob,
the money.
show me
Show
the
me the
money.
money.
Bob Sugar was actually on my show over the summer.
Really?
He's Jay Moore. He's a comedian. He lives out in California. He lived in New Jersey in the Palisades.
Really?
But
Well,
yeah,
you know what?
yeah.
Well, you know what's interesting about that movie? It was based on an agent by the name of Gary Richard. And Gary Richard was a famous agent, but he was also a famous football player my year at CW Post. And he passed away a few years back, but he was the basis of that movie.
Wow, that's awesome. Really
And
cool.
not the Jerry Maguire one. He was
Yeah.
the other guy.
He was Sugar.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's great. All right, let's zoom back out to World Lacrosse. What's coming up? How can people find more information about you? What does the future hold to the best of your knowledge? I know we're in uncertain times.
Oh yeah. So what's interesting is, during the pandemic, it was crazy, but we were able to spend more time on Zoom calls and getting to know our members better than we did without. You talk to each other like with member countries on a daily basis through these calls. So that, as much as it's been difficult, we've gotten much closer with our countries and our new countries. I mean, we have, as I said, we brought in 5 countries during the pandemic, and we have 3 or 4 more on the horizon. But also our individual countries, we've been able to give grants to them, find out more on how we can help them individually grow the game in their country, get sustainability for their programs. So a lot's been going on from that end. And we rebranded, it'll be 2 years in May. We were the Federation of International Lacrosse, and now we've become World Lacrosse, and it's been an unbelievable boost for us. We have a great management team led by Jim Shear, our CEO, Daryl Seibel, our marketing guy. I mean, it's amazing how much social media has helped us. And then, as far as our international tournaments, we hold a number of world tournaments, and that's been on a hold. We've had to postpone our Women's World Championship twice, and that's going to be going in Towson. It happens to be in the U.S. in next June. And then we have our under 19 that became our under 20, that's become our under 21 because of 2 postponements in Limerick, Ireland next August. So those 2 are coming up. And then we have our big men's event that will be in LA in 23. And then the biggest thing is, our mission, our vision is to grow the game and then become an Olympic sport again. And our focus has been on both of those areas. And we feel we have a very, very legitimate chance to become an Olympic sport in 28 in LA. And we've been focusing on that. And that all our work has been behind that. So those are the big things with World Lacrosse.
Excellent. And let us help any way we possibly can help you co-promote with that, because we want to see you guys in there. You're doing great things. It's great for America. It's great for the world. It's great for sports. So thank you for all that you do, Bob. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's crazy. My background is so kind of all over the place, but then it really is not all over the place. I mean, most people are a one sport, but I'm kind of, and that gives you great perspective. I remember somebody saying to me, a coach can coach. Give them a different sport, they could find out. So that I think that's a key.
I agree completely. The success principles remain the same across the board. If you have the knowledge and you have the passion, the X's and O's, the little mechanical, technical details, you could learn that. That's the easy part.
Absolutely. It's not about X's and O's. It's about Billy's and Joe's.
I love it. That's a great place to end it. Thanks again, Bob. I really appreciate it.
All right. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.